Everybody, Josh Shanley here. Actually just out running some errands at the post office right now. Picking up some rent checks and mobile home note payment checks and so forth. And I just want to put together a real quick video on selecting quality tenants, because I think it's a topic that doesn't get as much... it's not as glamorous as finding the best deal or finding, a great real estate investment. But really, when you think about it, it is as critical or more critical than finding a great deal, because you can have the greatest deal in the world, and if you don't have a quality tenant or tenant buyer in there that you can count on providing you income for that property, it doesn't mean anything, because without that income, you've got an alligator every month to feed. So I just wanted to give you, I was actually just listening to some great information, an audio series, and I wanted to give you just like two really powerful tips that I found that that I think can be critical. They're little things, but I think are critical towards the tenant selection process and things you really need to think about. And I know, at least for myself, I hadn't really thought about it to the level that what I've been listening to goes into detail. And the two things are, the first thing you want to do when you've got a property that you're looking for a tenant or tenant buyer is you want to sit down and create almost like a narrative of your perfect tenant for that property. So you want to sit down and think about, picture, what that tenant looks like, meaning, is it a single professional? Is it a married couple with several kids? And of course, you can't discriminate. You have to keep in mind that when you're thinking about your tenant selection process, you can't discriminate per the fair housing laws and so forth. But you can still create that image and that narrative in your mind of who your ideal tenant is. And so that's the first tip, is sitting down and creating like a narrative of what a quality tenant means to you, and how that would impact your investing business. The second thing is sitting down and creating specific criteria and qualifications that every tenant needs to meet. And then you also want to make it specific to the property, because one property may have different qualifications than another. For example, the income qualification would be different for one property versus another, depending on the size of the home, the market rent, and so forth. So there are things that would be variable, and you have to keep that in mind. So two very powerful things that I think you really need to do and think about for your investment properties is, one, creating that narrative of who that quality tenant is and what they look like, and then the qualifications, because it makes the process of finding that quality tenant easier, because I believe a lot in the law of attraction, and by committing to paper the type of tenant that you're looking for, you're going to attract them into your life. And then the second thing is, it makes the selection process easy, the qualifications, because you can take yourself out of the equation. You look and see, do they meet my qualifications or not? And it's very simple. There's no emotion. You won't allow yourself to be bullied by a persuasive tenant or tenant buyer who maybe doesn't meet your qualifications. You can simply go to your qualification sheet and say, you take the human element out of it. And so I think two very important things that you need to consider and start to use. So if you thought that was interesting and good, I can tell you that that's just the tip of the iceberg of the information on this this audio series that I recently purchased. You can actually get more information at the bottom of the video here. It's so inexpensive. It's crazy how inexpensive it is, and the value is through the roof. So I highly recommend that you check it out, even if you're not interested in the product itself. You've got to go check out the page, because there's hilarious story of my friend Rob and his tenant experience that led to him driving home from a rental property in his underwear. I won't tell you the rest of it, but it's just a hilarious story. And any of us who have been investors, we've got our tenant war stories. And if you're going to be an investor, ultimately you're going to have yours too. But you can avoid some of those horror stories if you check out the link at the bottom. Get some great information on tenant selection. So thanks for checking out this video, and we'll talk to you real soon.